Welcome to Silent Crime Case. In today's episode, we delve into the mysterious and tragic death of Lillian Warner, a talented graphic designer from Boulder, Colorado. At 40 years old, Lillian was known for her creative flair and community spirit. She worked as a freelance designer, crafting beautiful visuals, and was actively involved in local events and volunteer work. A graduate of the University of Colorado Boulder and a member of the Student Art Society, Lillian's life was filled with ambition and kindness qualities that endeared her to many, but behind her vibrant persona lay secrets that would ultimately lead to a shocking and untimely end. Lillian was not just talented, she was also very caring. She often volunteered at local shelters, like the Boulder Humane Society, and organized community events. For instance, she was a key figure in setting up the annual spring fair at the local park, where families enjoyed food, games, and live music. Her friends described her as the heart of their group, always the one to plan get-togethers and make everyone feel welcome. She had a close-knit group of friends who often met up for brunch at popular spots like the Buff restaurant. At home, Lillian was the glue that held her family together. She was married to Marcus Warner, an accountant, and they had an 18-year-old son named Ethan. Lillian and Ethan were particularly close, often spending weekends together hiking in the Flatirons or watching classic films. In the days before her death, Lillian was very busy but also very excited. She was planning a big community fundraiser for the local homeless shelter. She spent hours designing posters and flyers, and she even managed to get a local radio station, KBCO, to promote the event. Lillian also had dreams of expanding her graphic design business. She was in talks with a local magazine, Boulder Monthly, to feature some of her work. Her future seemed bright, and she was looking forward to all the possibilities. Lillian's personality was warm and generous. She was the type of person who would go out of her way to help a friend in need or make a stranger feel welcome. Her friends and family knew her as a selfless, loving person who always put others first, but her tragic death would leave a deep void in the hearts of those who knew her. On the morning of July 15, 2021, the usually quiet neighborhood in Boulder was shattered by a gruesome discovery. At around 8:30 a.m., Lillian Warner's neighbor, Susan Hayes, decided to drop off some homemade muffins. Susan and Lillian often exchanged baked goods and shared morning coffee. As Susan approached Lillian's front door, she noticed it was slightly ajar. Thinking nothing of it, she knocked and called out Lillian's name but got no response. Concerned, Susan stepped inside. She walked through the hallway calling for Lillian. As she entered the kitchen, she was met with a horrifying sight. Lillian was lying on the floor in a pool of blood, motionless. The kitchen, usually spotless and filled with the smell of Lillian's cooking, was in complete disarray. Susan froze in shock, her mind struggling to process the scene in front of her. After a few moments, Susan snapped out of her daze and fumbled for her phone. Her hands trembled as she dialed 911. The operator, sensing her distress, tried to calm her down and asked her to describe what she saw. Susan's voice shook as she explained that her friend was lying on the kitchen floor and wasn't moving. The operator assured her that help was on the way and instructed her to wait outside until the police arrived. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air, and 2 police cars pulled up to the house. Officers quickly secured the area and entered the home. Susan, still in a state of shock, was gently led away by a kind officer who asked her to sit down and take deep breaths. She was offered a blanket and a bottle of water as she tried to calm down. As news of the discovery spread, the police arrived quickly at Lillian Warner's house on the morning of July 15, 2021. After Susan Hayes' frantic 911 call, officers Dylan Carter and Maria Sanchez were the first on the scene, arriving within minutes. They were experienced detectives with the Boulder Police Department, known for their dedication and sharp investigative skills. As the officers entered the house, they were struck by the chaotic scene in the kitchen. The normally tidy room was in complete disarray, with broken dishes on the floor and blood splattered across the counters and walls. Lillian Warner lay on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood, with a kitchen knife nearby. It was clear that she had been stabbed multiple times, and the brutality of the attack was evident. Detective Carter, a tall man with a stern expression, immediately began assessing the scene, while Detective Sanchez, known for her keen attention to detail, started documenting everything with her camera. They carefully examined the area around Lillian's body, noting the signs of a struggle. The kitchen table was overturned and a chair was broken, indicating that Lillian had fought hard against her attacker. The detectives called in the forensic team, who arrived shortly after. The team used advanced tools to gather evidence, including swabs for DNA, fingerprint dusting kits, and high-resolution cameras to capture every detail. They meticulously collected samples of blood and other potential evidence, hoping to find clues that would lead them to the murderer. Detective Sanchez noticed a set of muddy footprints leading from the back door into the kitchen. She pointed this out to the forensic team, who took detailed photographs and measurements. The footprints suggested that the killer had entered the house through the back, possibly trying to avoid detection. Detectives Carter and Sanchez continued to work late into the night, reviewing the evidence and planning their next steps. They knew that solving Lillian's murder would require a thorough investigation and attention to every detail. The scene in Lillian Warner's kitchen was a puzzle they were determined to solve piece by piece to bring justice for Lillian and her grieving family. The first suspect in the investigation was Ethan Warner, Lillian and Marcus's 18-year-old son. Ethan was a high school senior with a bright future ahead of him. He was a popular student at Boulder High School, known for his talent in basketball and his ambition to study engineering in college. His teachers spoke highly of his intelligence and dedication, and he had already received several scholarship offers. Ethan had a complicated relationship with his father, but was very close to his mother. Lillian was his biggest supporter, attending all his basketball games and helping him with college applications. However, there was a secret Ethan had been hiding. He was involved in a sexual relationship with his high school English teacher, Megan Lewis. Lillian had recently discovered this relationship before her death, which caused tension in the household. When detectives Dylan Carter and Maria Sanchez brought Ethan in for questioning, he appeared nervous but cooperative. He admitted to the relationship with Megan Lewis, explaining that they had grown close over the past year. He described Megan as supportive and understanding, someone he could confide in about his struggles at home and school. The detectives asked Ethan about the night of his mother's murder. He claimed he was at a friend's house studying for an upcoming exam. His friend Logan Brooks confirmed Ethan's alibi, saying they had been working on a physics project together until late in the evening. However, the detectives were not entirely convinced and continued to press Ethan for more details. Ethan's nervousness grew as the interrogation continued. Detective Sanchez, known for her empathetic approach, asked Ethan about his feelings towards his parents, especially after Lillian discovered his sexual relationship with Megan. Ethan admitted that his mother's reaction had been harsh and that they had argued about it. He felt guilty for causing his mother distress, but insisted he had no reason to harm her. The police found explicit text messages on Ethan's phone between him and Megan Lewis, discussing their sexual relationship and Lillian's disapproval. The messages revealed a deep bond between them and their fears about the future. Ethan expressed his frustration with his parents but never hinted at any violent intentions. Despite his alibi, the police considered Ethan a person of interest. His sexual relationship with Megan Lewis and the tension at home provided potential motives. The detectives decided to keep a close eye on Ethan, reviewing his social media and phone records for any additional clues. Here is the continuation of the script for Silent Crime Case. Ethan's friends and teachers were shocked to hear about the investigation. They described him as a bright, ambitious young man with a promising future. The community couldn't believe that someone like Ethan could be involved in such a tragic event. The detectives, however, knew that appearances could be deceiving and continued to scrutinize every aspect of Ethan's life for answers. The second suspect in Lillian Warner's murder investigation was her husband, Marcus Warner. At 45 years old, Marcus was known for his meticulous and highly organized nature. He worked as an accountant at a well-known local. Detectives Dylan Carter and Maria Sanchez noticed signs of strain in Marcus's demeanor when they mentioned Lillian's recent discovery of Ethan's secret relationship with his high school English teacher, Megan Lewis. Marcus shifted in his seat and his responses became more defensive. He admitted that the news had caused tension in the family, but insisted that he had nothing to do with Lillian's death. As the questioning continued, it was revealed that Lillian had also discovered something else that could serve as a motive. Lillian had found out about Marcus's own affair with Megan Lewis. This revelation had caused a significant rift between Lillian and Marcus. Lillian's diary entries, which the police found, detailed her heartbreak and anger over her husband's betrayal. Marcus's short temper was another point of interest for the investigators. Friends and family members noted that while he was usually composed, he could become very angry when provoked. The detectives questioned Marcus about his temper and whether it had ever led to violence. Marcus denied ever hurting Lillian, but the detectives were not convinced. To gather more information, the police interviewed Marcus's co-workers and neighbors. They described him as a man who kept to himself and rarely socialized. Some coworkers mentioned noticing changes in his behavior in the weeks leading up to Lillian's murder. He seemed more stressed and distracted at work, often making mistakes in his otherwise flawless accounting records. Despite Marcus's insistence on his innocence, the detectives felt they had enough reason to keep him under close watch. They continued to dig into his background, looking for any additional evidence that could link him to the crime. As the investigation unfolded, Marcus remained a key suspect, his calm exterior masking the potential for deeper, darker motives. The police's thorough interrogation and evidence-gathering process aimed to uncover the truth behind Lillian Warner's tragic death, and Marcus's actions and responses during the investigation only intensified their suspicions. Hey, true crime case solvers? Interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. And do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Stay safe, true crime case solvers. The third suspect in the investigation was Megan Lewis, a 55-year-old high school English teacher at Boulder High School. Megan was well liked by her students and colleagues, known for her passion for literature and her dedication to helping students succeed. She often stayed late to assist with assignments and had a reputation for being empathetic and approachable. Megan's involvement with Ethan Warner came to light during the investigation. The relationship was quite the scandal, given their age difference and her position as his teacher. Detectives Dylan Carter and Maria Sanchez brought Megan in for questioning at the Boulder Police Department. Megan arrived looking composed but clearly nervous about the situation. During the interrogation, Megan admitted to the sexual relationship with Ethan. She explained that it had started innocently, with her offering extra help after school, but had quickly developed into something more intimate. Megan described her connection with Ethan as special, stating that she cared deeply for him and wanted to support him through his family struggles. The detectives pressed Megan about her whereabouts on the night of Lillian Warner's murder. Megan claimed she was at home grading papers and preparing lesson plans for the upcoming week. She had no alibi, as she lived alone, and there were no witnesses to corroborate her story. This raised suspicions and the detectives continued to probe. Megan's phone records showed numerous text messages between her and Ethan, discussing their relationship and Lillian's disapproval. The messages revealed their concerns about Lillian discovering the affair and the potential consequences. However, there was no direct evidence linking Megan to the murder. Detective Sanchez, using her empathetic approach, asked Megan about her feelings towards Lillian. Megan admitted that Lillian's discovery of the relationship had caused significant tension. Lillian had confronted Megan in her classroom, demanding she end the relationship with Ethan immediately. Megan described the confrontation as heated, but insisted she had no intention of harming Lillian or ending the relationship with Ethan. Despite her calm demeanor, the detectives sensed that Megan was hiding something. They searched her home, looking for any evidence that might connect her to the crime. They found nothing incredible. It was a warm, sunny day in Boulder, and the police received a call from a local gardener who had been working in a nearby park, Chautauqua Park, when he stumbled upon a blood-stained glove hidden behind some bushes near the park's edge. He immediately contacted the Boulder Police Department, and officers arrived at the scene within minutes. Detectives Dylan Carter and Maria Sanchez, who were leading the investigation, rushed to the park. They carefully retrieved the glove, making sure not to contaminate any potential evidence. The glove was sent to the forensic lab for analysis, and the area around the park was thoroughly searched for additional clues. The forensic team worked quickly, and the results came back later that evening. The blood on the glove matched Lillian Warner's, and there were traces of another substance inside the glove that could be DNA from the suspect. This discovery gave the detectives a renewed sense of urgency. They now had a tangible piece of evidence that could potentially link someone to the crime scene. Detective Sanchez reviewed surveillance footage from around the park, hoping to spot anyone who might have been acting suspiciously on the day of Lillian's murder. The footage revealed a figure wearing a dark hoodie walking hurriedly away from the park around the time the murder was believed to have occurred. The person's face was not clearly visible, but the footage provided a lead. Further analysis of the glove's DNA revealed a match to Marcus Warner. The detectives were now more convinced than ever that he was involved in his wife's murder. They decided to bring him in for further questioning, armed with this new piece of evidence. During the second interrogation, Marcus's calm demeanor began to crack when confronted with the DNA evidence. He became defensive and evasive. He couldn't provide a satisfactory explanation for how his DNA ended up in a blood-stained glove found near the crime scene. The detectives pressed him harder, and his story started to fall apart. Meanwhile, the forensic team continued to search for additional evidence. They discovered a partial fingerprint on the handle of the kitchen knife used in the murder. This fingerprint also matched Marcus's, strengthening the case against him. The discovery of the glove and the matching DNA and fingerprint evidence were pivotal in the investigation. The detectives now had enough to move forward with their case against Marcus. They continued to gather more evidence, preparing to make an arrest and bring justice for Lillian Warner. The new evidence brought a sense of relief to the community, which had been on edge since Lillian's tragic death. It also gave Lillian's family hope that the person responsible for her murder would finally be held accountable. On July 21, 2021, armed with crucial evidence, the police were ready to make their move. Marcus Warner, a 45-year-old accountant, had become their primary suspect. Known for his meticulous and organized nature, Marcus's life seemed orderly from the outside, but inside he was battling jealousy and rage. The investigation revealed that Marcus had discovered his son Ethan's secret relationship with Megan Lewis, the English teacher. This revelation angered him, but what infuriated him more was Lillian's discovery of his own affair with Megan. Driven by jealousy and rage, Marcus had initially planned to confront Ethan, his love rival. However, when Lillian entered the room where he was waiting, his anger redirected toward her. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, he grabbed a kitchen knife and stabbed Lillian to death. Detectives Dylan Carter and Maria Sanchez, who had been leading the investigation, arrived at Marcus's office early that morning. They had an arrest warrant, and the evidence needed to take him into custody. Marcus was taken by surprise as the detectives entered his office and informed him of the charges. His calm exterior shattered, and he became visibly agitated. Marcus was handcuffed and escorted out of his office, past shocked colleagues. His arrest made headlines, with local news stations covering the story. The community was stunned, and the news spread quickly through social media. Lillian's family had mixed emotions about Marcus's arrest. They were relieved that the person responsible for Lillian's death was caught, but they were also devastated that it was someone so close to them. Lillian's sister Jennifer expressed her sorrow and anger in an interview, stating that she felt betrayed by Marcus, whom she had trusted. As Marcus was led away by the police, his reaction was a mix of shock and awe. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Lauren Mitchell, a 42-year-old with a reputation for being tough and tenacious. Mitchell laid out the case against Marcus with meticulous detail. She presented the blood-stained glove, the partial fingerprint on the knife, and the DNA evidence linking Marcus to the crime. She argued that Marcus's jealousy and rage led him to murder his wife, Lillian Warner, in a fit of uncontrolled anger. On the defense side was attorney Richard Callahan, a 50-year-old known for his calm demeanor and persuasive arguments. Callahan contended that the evidence was circumstantial and that there was no clear motive for Marcus to kill his wife. He tried to cast doubt on the reliability of the forensic evidence and suggested that someone else could have been responsible for Lillian's death. Throughout the trial, Lillian's family sat in the front row, their faces a mixture of sadness and determination. Her sister often wiped away tears as she listened to the testimonies and evidence presented. The community's support was palpable, with many residents showing up to the courthouse to stand by Lillian's family. Ethan Warner, now a college freshman, also attended the trial. He had to relive the painful memories of his mother's death and the shocking revelation of his father's affair with his teacher, Megan Lewis. Megan herself testified, admitting to the relationship with both Marcus and Ethan, but maintaining her innocence regarding the murder. The jury deliberated for 3 days. On October 25, 2021, they returned with a verdict. Marcus Warner was found guilty of second-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Marcus showed little emotion, staring straight ahead as his fate was sealed. The sentencing took place on November 1, 2021. The judge sentenced Marcus to 15 years in prison. The sentence was met with mixed reactions. Lillian's family felt some relief that justice had been served, but the pain of losing Lillian was still raw. Jennifer expressed her hope that Marcus would reflect on his actions and the damage he had caused. The community had a similar response. Some felt the sentence was too lenient given the brutal nature of the crime, while others believed it was fair, considering Marcus's previously clean record and the complex emotions involved. Marcus Warner's conviction and sentencing marked the end of a painful chapter for Lillian's family and the Boulder community. The trial had exposed deep wounds and secrets, but it also brought a measure of justice for Lillian Warner's untimely death. The family and community now faced the challenge of healing and moving forward from this tragedy. After the trial, life in Boulder slowly returned to normal, but the impact of Lillian Warner's murder lingered. Lillian's family, particularly her sister Jennifer, faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives. Jennifer became a vocal advocate for domestic violence awareness, partnering with local organizations like Safe House Progressive Alliance for Nonviolence, SPAN, to educate others and provide support to victims. Ethan Warner, deeply affected by the loss of his mother and the scandal surrounding his father's actions, struggled to find his footing. He decided to transfer to a college out of state, seeking a fresh start away from the painful memories. Ethan focused on his studies and basketball, finding solace in the sport his mother had always supported him in. Megan Lewis continued her teaching position at Boulder High School despite the scandal tarnishing her reputation. She faced harsh judgment from the community and struggled to rebuild her life. Despite her challenges, Megan remained dedicated to her students, hoping to move past the scandal and focus on her career. The Warner home, once a symbol of a happy family, stood empty for several months before being sold. The new owners, aware of the tragic history, sought to bring new life to the house. They renovated and invited the community to a housewarming, symbolizing a fresh start and the healing power of community support. Marcus Warner, now serving his sentence, had time to reflect on his actions. The prison system offered counseling and rehabilitation programs, which he participated in, hoping to understand and atone for his crimes. His relationship with Ethan remained strained, but there was hope that time and reflecti